And I still remember the first day I went to the little country school called Taina Primary School. Down the back of the classroom, and there were no books. There was a National Geographic magazine. And do you know what I'm talking about? They're American made and they're glossy paper. And I remember I picked it up and I smelt it and it had an inky smell. And I would have been 5 at the time. And I opened it up and the printing was always high class. And there was a mountain stream, beautiful mountain stream, beautifully photographed, and there was a deer having a drink from the what's the name, and all the trees were pine trees because probably Canada or America, no Aussie trees. So that's the first book that I ever remember reading.
Maureen Dickson.
Royce Dickson. I came number
5 at a family of 6.
I came number 5. We lived on a farm. My dad was a wheat and sheep farmer in the Mallee, and education wasn't talked about very much in our family because nobody had had tertiary studies or certainly no university.
There wasn't an emphasis on that at that period of time.
Yeah. And I went to school in Mildura, which was about 20 mile away from where we lived. And I remember the subjects I studied in year 11, my last year, were, would you believe, Greek and Roman history. Nothing to do with Australia. Greek and Roman history, English, maths, just the basic things. Yes, I left school at year 11. And
you haven't mentioned that you won a scholarship.
Oh yeah,
won a scholarship which you didn't take up.
After the Second World War, the federal government wanted to encourage secondary education, and if you were smart enough, I suppose you had a chance to try for it.
Which you did.
But anyway, I went on to St Joseph's College in Mildura. I went to for my secondary education, and when I left school, I had an opportunity to go to an institute in Geelong. It was called the
Gordon Institute
of Technology, where they did studies of fabric making and all this sort of thing. Yeah, and I was working in a factory doing work experience before I started, and got my fingers caught in a machine, and bang, that's what happened.
You had an artificial arm?
Still over there in the shed.
Yes.
Still over in the shed. And I had to have an artificial arm, which I hated the sight of, so I got rid of it as quick as I could.
Yeah.
But as the kids grew up, even this one here, this idea of this secret arm sort of thing that I had, and all I did was put it in a box. And so the box in our family, among the kids, became sort of a mystery. Pop, can we have a look at your arm? Yeah, so there it is, you can have a look. But anyway, I was left-handed. I was one of those left-handers, they write right around in a circle, and they write sort of back towards them. Anyway, my sister Norma, who was a teacher, she's a qualified teacher at that stage, she said, well, teaching, what about teaching? Because there's nothing much else you can do. And she was right. I went down with my sister to Hawthorn, I remember, and spoke to the Education Department representatives, and they knocked me back. I couldn't write my own name. And Mum bought them for me, big blotting, what do you call them? Writing pads, and a good supply of biros. And I used to write, a quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. Quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. And I must have written it probably hundreds of them during the day.
To learn to write.
And I just kept on filling these books. I went back in March, which in that time the teaching program, the teachers had started their training, so I'd missed the start. It was March and they started at the end of January. And I went back again to the same place in Hawthorn in Melbourne and put up my case again, and they said yes. So I went to start at Bendigo Teachers College, and that was it, just the way it went.
he was an amazing sportsman amongst his other talents. So on the football career, as I said, I didn't get to see Dad actually play, but as the story goes, he was something like the #1 draft pick back in 1954, after starring in a grand final the year before as a 16-year-old boy, kicking lots of goals. And he was recruited by Bob Davis, who was the captain of Geelong, which was the premiership team in the VFL for the previous year. So a great club. After a star recruit, and of course when Dad went down to try out with Geelong, sadly he had his accident and his career was effectively over before it started. But from all accounts, he was exceptionally gifted and was going to have a great VFL career. That said, when he did return to playing footy in country leagues, as we know, he did win the best and fairest in a country league competition, not only for his club but for the league, and that's just an amazing feat, obviously for someone with one arm, but also having to learn to play the game effectively with his opposite arm and his opposite foot, kicking and disposing of the ball. So all of these things are testimony to the fact that Royce had incredible natural sporting ability and was good basically at everything he did, be it football, tennis, golf, table tennis and other sporting pursuits.
I was working, doing clerical work in a garage, and Royce bought a car from there. And a lady said, "Oh, there's a handsome looking teacher out there that's bought this car." So we didn't actually meet there, but I spotted him and so at a dance the following week.
I was spotted. And I was on my first teaching appointment up in the mountains, at a little place called Tumbleup, a little timber town up in the ranges. And Benalla was the closest town to where I was living, and so
for entertainment.
That's where our paths crossed.
Yes, the football team and friends used to come to the local dances, so that's probably where we met. And then he took me home from this dance and asked me out the next week. And so we went together for probably a couple of weeks, and then he asked me how old I was. And I said, yes. He said, "Oh, 19. I said, 15. So he decided then that perhaps I was too young, but he came back the next week. And so...
that's where it all began.
Family to us is very important.
That's right. That's it.
That's the one.
It's interesting that, I'm still a farmer. I like growing vegetables and having
Frustrated farmer.
having a dog, and I like to have some chooks, and I could still be a farmer, and I am very interested in agriculture and horticulture as the food side of things for people. And so I could have spent my life as a farmer, spent my life as a teacher.
But then you wouldn't have met me, see?
I might have been going past Benalla one day, you never know. That's their food supply. And there's about, up here's one, Belle. See the seed cases up here?
Mm.
Its common name is the silver princess, they call it. That's the rooster, that's the hen with the chickens. So come on, I'll show you over here. So if I'm going to grow some things to eat, now these little beds here, that's all I've got now. I'm going to grow potatoes in those
Oh, cool.
and beetroot in those. And because we like fish and chips, that's a beautiful lemon tree. One of the things I do in terms of being a good gardener is that I like to work on the soil, because I'm the son of a farmer. My father was a farmer, and I've inherited somehow a love for making the soil really rich. And have a look at this. If you look closely in there, it's just a mass of earthworms which turn all of the compost and food waste and everything like that into beautiful rich soil. See them? There are thousands, millions of them really. So that's where the garden and the trees and everything start, with the soil. The other thing that's tied in with my philosophy is that I save water, and I probably showed you this before. Of this little shed here, I just use it. These are all chemical things, and when we get rain, we save all of the water, and we've got beautiful endless supply. Cost us nothing.
Wow.
And I've done the same on the house, same with the toilets. So we don't really need to buy water, we just save what nature gives us. Something like 800,000 tonnes of rubbish and recycled stuff, which was used by the Shepparton City Council to get rid of all their rubbish and what have you for probably 15 or 20 years. And the plan was to cover it over, which I'll show you, and to create gardens. It's hard to imagine that all that heap is made of rubbish. I'll tell you what, it was a huge job to clean it up and get it ready to the stage it's at now. I brought the representatives of the Urban Land Care Group as a support team when this started. We did a lot of the early work here, cleaning up all the rubbish, planting some of the early plants and all that sort of stuff. The planting that you're seeing will all be Australian native plants. They're not from America or in England. Everything is Australian, and that's important to us. These are all Australian native plants, Lamandra, spiny matrush. And with the plants, they've got a botanical name on the top, and down the bottom they've got the common name. Good morning.
Morning, how are you?
Good, pretty good. Now you'll notice that they're not colourful. Australian vegetation is fairly dull, comes out in beautiful flowers, but basically it's a pretty dull sort of a situation. Shepparton's been based on the idea of looking after visitors, and a lot of our people here are extract from Italy, Greece, Yugoslavia, a lot of those Baltic sort of areas. Yeah, there it is, that says it all. Displaced people. It'll continue to develop, and it'll be, even here you see behind, there are families, these are families turned up from somewhere, and they're bringing the kids up here to have a look and all that sort of thing. So hopefully it will be a significant tourist area, because there are a lot of people who are interested in Australian plants, and they're the ones that will come here. To a lot of people, this is a waste of time. You know, what are you doing? Waste of time. On a rubbish tip, you'll never grow any plants. Well, here's the evidence that we're going to do it. So that's basically what it will be. Yeah, there's the champion golfer.
Well, tell the story there, the hole-in-one. Pop came home from golf, said he had a hole-in-one. I didn't believe him. I said,
Yeah.
oh yes, thought he was joking. And Jack rang up and said, Pop, you're a champion.
Yeah,
So then I had to
it would
believe
be
him.
pretty rare to have a hole-in-one, but really rare for a one-handed golfer to have a hole-in-one. So
Yeah,
I suppose I'm famous.
In Shepparton you are. And amongst the family you are.
I've been involved at the golf club as a committee person probably for 15 years, and I've slowly moved towards getting people involved in the environmental things. Well, what we did, we applied to, in Melbourne there are various trusts, they call them, where wealthy people have left a certain amount of money to be used for the good of the community. And there was a doctor down in Frankston who had a lot of money. When he died, he left his money to a group called Birds Australia. We put in an application because we knew that there was a decline in the bird population here, and so we had to help the birds. And lo and behold, they gave us $5,000, and that allowed us to get that done, get the boxes made, all the things we needed to do. Right through the golf course, there are a series of trees like this where birds and the little tiny possums, which are part of the deal, they call them glider possums, they have nesting sites or sleeping sites or living sites. And we're finding already that some of these creatures are coming back here. We haven't seen them for years. All of a sudden we're starting to see them again. And we've got to plant I'll show you down here particular types of food trees, which is what they need. And if you have the food source, they will come. It's called the Silver Banksia Rescue Project, conserving the Banksia marginata, which is the name of those trees. Now those trees used to be all the way along the river, and for some reason they have declined, and all of a sudden it looked like there were going to be none of those food trees available. And of course that would lead to the loss of the birds. So we were given those 12 plants, and we planted and looked them up. They've been in there 12 months, and this was the sign put out by the Goulburn Broken Catchment Management Authority. It doesn't cost us anything, they supply it, but we have to do it and look after them. Next year, hopefully there'll be a mass of beautiful flowers on that, and these birds that want to kill bees, they'll fly over here and get their morning breakfast. I think we've got a responsibility to look after the things, because your age group is now, you're the people who will do things or not do things. Eventually you'll have a family, another generation. You and I will fade out of the picture, and there'll be young people who will want Australia to be a beautiful country. So that's my motivation. Well, probably I want my life to be an example to perhaps people who've had the misfortune of accidents. That's important, because my life, whether it's sport or study or work, I feel that I have achieved probably to my potential. I've done pretty well, so that's important.
And but I don't want my name up in lights or awards and all that sort of thing. That doesn't mean much to me at all. I can understand why people, do that, but that's not why I do what I do.